I started using ChatGPT to start to do some business analysis work, and I decided to do it live. So if you're here on an unannounced live session, this is basically me just going through and trying to use ChatGPT as a business analyst would to try to help reduce some of the burden that business analysts oftentimes kind of experience as they're doing their work. So the very first question that I asked the bot here is for the bot to teach me about the insurance industry, right? So I'm going to pretend like I am now just trying to learn a new domain, all right? So as an analyst, I'm entering in a totally new industry, and I'm going to try to use ChatGPT to see if I can get myself up to speed on learning this new domain using the tool, and I'll see how far I can get to it. So this is completely unscripted. I had no intention of doing this, but I started to do it, and I just wanted to go live to share it with anybody else who's interested here. So I asked it, can you teach me about the insurance industry? And it came back and told me, yes, it's a vital part of modern society. It gave me a quick overview of how the insurance industry actually works. Pulling together risk is a big part of it. Types of insurance that cover specific types of risk. For example, you have life insurance, you have health insurance, you have medical for medical care and treatment, auto insurance, etc. Property and casualty covers losses to personal business property as well as liability and for injuries. So this is really gives me a really good overview of what the insurance industry actually is. And let's say I am entering into a company that is handling health insurance. Let's say, for example, maybe I just got a new job offer from a health insurance company, and I don't know much about health insurance, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can about the domain before I start my first day of work. So second question I asked it here are, what are some of the internal processes that insurance companies rely on to run their businesses? And the answer it came back with was actually really good, because it gave me a very good overview of the major business activities that insurance companies perform. So it's telling me about the underwriting process, which is the process of evaluating risk, the claims process, right? Which is when a policyholder files a claim. That's right. The insurance company has a department that's responsible for basically going through the claims. This process involves in verifying detailed claims and reviewing the relevant documentation, et cetera. And that's exactly what claims processing is. Policy issuance, right? After a policy is sold, the insurance company is responsible for issuing the policy documentation. So that's another activity that all insurance companies basically have to go through. Billing and premium billing and collection, critical to the business's operations, customer service, and data management. So I basically asked it a simple question: what are some of the internal processes? And it gave me all of probably the core ones. I think the one that it missed the most here has to do with the investment. So most insurance companies are basically an insurance company and an investment company in one. And essentially what most insurance companies do is that they will take their premiums. There's a certain amount that they have to set aside for claims, but the rest of the premiums that they collect go through, they basically put into investments, and that becomes a revenue generating vehicle for them also. So that's a critical part of an insurance company's business model that it has missed. Here's what I'll do is I'll ask it is, are there any other major activities? Are there any other major activities that are part of the part of an insurance company's business model? And let's see if it comes back with something that may be useful. I'm hoping that it'll come back and start to tell me a little bit more about the investment side of an insurance company, so I can, at the very least, understand as a new analyst. I can at least understand that that's part of what I should be learning. So it says, yes, there are several major activities that typically part of an insurance company's business model. These include marketing and sales, product development. That's right. Investment management, there it is. All right, so it now starts to lay out another part, like an investment management for insurance companies, again, is a major part of their business operations, right? And so I'm glad that it brought it out. Financial management, can carefully manage their resources. Regulatory compliance, huge, is another huge area. So as an analyst just trying to learn about the insurance domain, I'm starting to see that this is an excellent tool for me to at least get an overview. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to see if it can tell me a little bit more about, let's say, the claims processing. Claims processing is a huge area for insurance companies. And let's say I'm an analyst who wants to get into claims processing for insurance companies. I'm going to ask the bot if it can tell me, and I'll frame my question in the following way. Can you tell me a little more about what is involved in the claims processing process of an insurance company? Let's see what I'm really looking to see here. I'm looking to test to see if it'll actually start to lay out some of the steps that I can possibly use to put together a process map or something like that, using this tool. So hopefully it'll come back with a set of steps that are involved in claims processing, and I could potentially take those steps and turn them into a process map as kind of like a preparation for possibly a workshop that I may need to have with the claims processing team on the kind of activities that they're need to perform. So claims processing is an important part of the operations of an insurance company. That's right. So basically, you receive a claim, step one, verify the claim, step two. This is very impressive. Verifying the claim, investigating the claim, determining coverage. This is excellent. And if you guys have any questions in the chat there, feel free to pop them in, and we're live, so I can ask. Oh, you're asking about mortgage insurance? You know what? Maybe I'll divert and get into mortgage insurance in a couple of minutes and see if we can get it to give us some answers regarding that. What I want to do is I want to see, okay, I've chosen claims processing right now. So what I want to do with claims processing is try to figure out exactly what's involved in claims processing. So receiving a claim, verifying a claim, investigating, determining coverage, negotiating settlement, and then eventually paying the claim. It does give me a better understanding, but I want to understand, I want to get even deeper, because my workshop that's coming up is going to be about, let's say, the verification process, and we're going to talk about the determining coverage. You know what? I'm going to ask it to elaborate on question number 4. Can you expand on 4? Let's see if it can handle that question. And tell me a little bit more. Certainly, when insurance company's claims department determines whether a claim is covered under the policy, it is evaluating whether the loss is one that is covered by the policy and terms and conditions, right? Policy terms and conditions outline the specific covered by the policy, and as well as the exclusions and limitations. This is very good. If a policyholder has a car insurance policy and files a claim for damages resulting from the car accident, the claims department will review the policy to make sure that it covers accidents. If the policy covers car accidents, the claims department will then determine whether the damages are covered by the policy limits. So you can start to see that I am so impressed right now. And so this is the first time I've actually gone through and started to do this, and very, very impressed with the way that it's explaining the inner workings of the insurance industry for me. If a claim is not covered under policy, the claims department will typically deny the claim. Okay, so that is an outcome of a claim that's submitted. I hope this helps clarify. It does. You know what? I'm going to say, I'm going to see if we can work in this mortgage insurance, the mortgage insurance that you asked about here in the chat. I'm going to see if I can work that into one of our follow-up questions. So I'll say, Can you give me an example of when a policy, an example of how the insurance company the company would process the claim for, let's say, for a mortgage, process a mortgage claim they receive from their customers. Okay, can you give me an example? And this should tell us essentially that it is, yeah, certainly. Here's an example of how an insurance company might process a mortgage claim from a customer receiving the claim. So the customer contacts the insurance company to report a loss covered for their mortgage policy, such as damage to their home due to a natural disaster. This is excellent. Verifying the claim, investigating the claim. In some cases, the claims department may need to investigate the claim. Okay, that's very good. They may need to investigate the claim in order to determine whether it is covered under the policy. This may involve talking to witnesses, reviewing relevant records, or consulting with experts. And then they determine the coverage, negotiate the settlement. Looks like it's still thinking there a little bit. Okay, negotiating a settlement, and then paying the claim. I hope this example helps. It certainly does. Any other questions in the chat? Because I have a ton of follow-up questions that I can ask. What I'll do is the claim verification process. Okay, let's see what is probably, when it comes to determining coverage, what kinds of questions would they ask when determining coverage? And my hope, the answer that I'm trying to get to here from an analyst point of view, the answer I'm trying to get to is to see if it will tell me about some of the conditions that may be built into their system to help them decide whether it's essentially gonna pass the test of paying out the claim or not. So, for example, many insurance companies typically will automate their claims processing, and for them to be able to automate claims processing, they have to have a lot of those rules actually built into the system so that when a claim comes in, the system can actually automatically test it against those conditions to figure out whether the outcome of paying a claim is going to be positive or negative, and possibly provide some sort of a reason. So let's see what the answer it came back with is. When insurance company's claim department is determining whether a claim is covered under a policy, they may ask a range of questions in order to gather the necessary information. Some examples of questions they may ask include, what is the nature of the loss? When did the loss occur? Where did the loss occur? Okay. What caused the loss? So this is questions that they would essentially be asking as part of the first step when somebody's submitting a claim. That's when they would ask the question. I want them to determine the coverage. The specific questions of claims department asks will depend on the type of insurance policy, nature of loss. For example, if a customer is filing a claim for damages to their home due to natural disaster, the claims department may ask about the extent of damages. Okay. I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked at how good this tool is for the purpose of learning a new domain, because a lot of this material I can use to start building out a process map that describes essentially what an insurance business is structured like, and it can start to help me get ready for the workshops that I would have, the initial discovery workshops that I would have for some of my customers that I'm running the project on. Any other follow-up questions in the chat that I should ask? If you guys have any questions, please feel free to submit them. If not, I'm going to continue digging deeper and deeper to see how detailed of a response I can get when it comes to determining coverage. What data would the company need to store to determine coverage? Let's see if I can ask it that question and see if it can give me some insights into the data structures that the system would have to house to be able to perform that activity there. Policy details. There we go. Okay, the insurance company stores information about policy terms. That's basically an entity or an object. Welcome, Raphael. Raphael, for everybody else who just joined, we're going through and we're trying to see if we can learn as much about the insurance domain using OpenAI's chat tool. And so far, the results have been, I mean, they've completely blown me away about how clear and concise some of these answers are. And so right now it's answering a question around, so right now the intention behind this question about asking it about the data that it needs to store is whether it's going to start giving us data about some of the entities, whether is it going to give us some visibility into the entities and the attributes that may be stored inside of a claims processing system, for example. Raphael, if you're interested, you and I can hop on to a Zoom call and we can go through this process for the sales process if you're interested in doing that, to give folks an idea of what the sales domain is structured with. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We can set something up. I'd definitely be up for it. What kind of AI is this? Is it a website? Yeah, so it's called OpenAI. If you go to chat.openai.com, I'll put the link right here in the chat, and you can go to it, sign up for a free account. It's completely free, and you can basically just go through it and start asking it some questions, exactly the way that I'm doing right now, and start to actually learn about the domain. So let me do a couple of follow-up questions. So right now it's told me about policy details it needs to store. Claimant information, there's our customer data and the policyholder data. That's an entity. Loss details, the company stores information about loss details, including the date. There you go. Documentation, settlement details. You know what? I'm very interested in understanding policy. So let's dive a little bit deeper into policy details. The insurance company stores information about policy terms and conditions. Can you tell me a little more? Can you elaborate on the policy, on the types of policy details? Policy details I can expect to see for let's say I'm gonna see if it's smart enough to switch context here. I'm gonna go from mortgage insurance to health insurance. So can you elaborate on the kind of policy details that a health insurance policy can contain? This is a sampling of the data insurance company might have. Maybe I could have gone a little bit broader and asked it to give me a little bit more details on the entities, but I decided to go deeper to figure out, decided to go deeper on that one to see if they can give me more details. Health insurance policies widely vary in terms of specific coverage and that they provide. For everybody else who's just joined us new here, I'm using ChatGPT to learn about the insurance domain. And I'm asking it very specific questions to try to figure out if I can reverse engineer essentially this tool to learn about the data elements that might be stored in a claims processing system or in some sort of a policy management system inside an insurance company. So they have they vary quite widely, it seems like. And it's saying here, but there are some common types. Okay. Types of coverage. Health insurance policies may cover a range of medical services. Here are a couple of examples. This is, I've worked for a health insurance company before, so a lot of this is very familiar to me, and it's right on the mark with a lot of what it's telling me. So deductibles and copays, out-of-pocket limits. I'm going to say, is there anything else? Is there anything else? Let's see what it says. If we can go even a little bit more broadly in this area here. This is spectacular. My experience with this tool so far has been amazing. And I may do a little bit of this before, in preparation for our Salesforce conversations. I may do a little bit of this. Use this tool to try to build up a set of questions that we can ask some of the Salesforce experts that exist out there as well. We have, let's see, annual limits, exclusions, coverage for dependents. This is excellent. The continuation of coverage, appeal rights, etc. This gives me a very, very comprehensive understanding. Can you give me examples? I'll say, can you give me a specific example using maybe vision care, let's say dental care, dental insurance. Let's see what it comes back with. Certainly, here's an example. One of the types of policy details that might be included in dental insurance policy, types of coverage. Dental insurance may cover a range of dental services such as preventative care, diagnostic tests, and treatments. I can't think of a better way, as this is formulating its response, I can't think of a better way of learning about the insurance domain than this, right? I think this has the potential that this tool has to help you learn a new domain so quickly. I think this is a huge game changer, And as a generalist business analyst, I'm constantly moving from one domain to another. So a lot of the work that this is doing for me right now is work that I would have to do on my own to just learn about a new domain so that I can ramp myself up and onboard myself onto the client's project, right? So that I'm asking intelligent questions of my clients and my customers right away. And had I had a tool like this in the last, 10 years that I've been a consultant, I think it would have saved me so much time and so much effort. Certainly, it gives me policy details very specifically on dental coverage. May cover a range of dental services, right? It does that. Many dental insurance policies have deductibles, which are amounts the policy holder must pay out of pocket. There's typically tons of business rules built into claims processing systems around all of these issues that it's telling me about. And this is an excellent introduction. Out-of-pocket limits, network providers. Dental insurance policies may have a network of providers that policyholders can choose. This is excellent. Any questions? What kind of you got the AI tool? Any questions you want me to ask? Type it into the chat and I'll just type it. You type it into our chat and I'll type it into this chat and we can get a response. Or better yet, you could just use the link in the description there to get yourself an account that you can do this on your own with. There's nothing stopping you from doing this, but I'm going to continue down this path. I'm going to see if I can ask it, but the types of coverage. Let me see if I can think of a really difficult follow-up question to ask it. Can you give me a list of rules? I'm going to say, can you give me a list of rules that a claims processing system would use to determine types of coverage? Let it think. There are a variety of rules that claims processing systems might use to determine types of coverage that are under a particular insurance policy. For example, terms and conditions, right? The terms and conditions, types of losses that are covered under the policy, as well as exclusions and limitations. The claims process system may use these policy terms and conditions. Wow, okay. Coverage limits, policy exclusions. I'm gonna ask it for an example of coverage limits. I'm gonna see if it can give me actual rules. Oh, network error. Can you give me a list of rules? Oh, we got a network error as we were going through here. Let me see If I can regenerate a response. Oh, we got a network error and it didn't, I'm going to ask it to repeat itself because can you repeat that? Let's see if it can understand this. Repeat that, please. Okay, it will give us, okay, good. This thing is shockingly good at understanding, like just having a natural conversation, because if you think about it, I said, can you repeat that, please? And it knew exactly what I was asking, right? Without any additional context, it kind of understands where the conversation is at. And just by reading that, it tells I'm asking about the previous question, and it's going through and understanding and being very pleasant all at the same time here. It's got very good manners as it's answering all these very complicated questions. Let's see, certainly we have, so here are the rules. Can you give me an example of coverage limits? Give me a few examples of number, you know what? I'm not even gonna say coverage limits of 2. And see if it understands that I'm asking about coverage limits. Here are a few examples. Wow, it did, of how coverage limits might be used to determine the maximum amount that can be paid for a particular loss. Maximum payout. There you go. Set of conditions that I would ask my customers about if I'm helping them to design the claims processing limits. Are there annual limits that you have, right? This gives me, without even knowing about the subject, I would go in and ask these types of questions. Do you guys have any annual limits that we need to implement in the system? Are there limits based on the number of incidents a person is allowed to get coverage for under a policy like this? These examples, can you give me a few more? You give me a few more. Wow. This is, I'm astonished at how good this is. Absolutely astonished how good this is. Certainly, here are a few more examples of coverage limits that may be included in insurance policy. Lifetime limits. There we go. More. So I don't know. Do you think that, like, just based on having seen, I'll ask the group a question, just based on having seen what I've been able to do with this, do you think that you could use this tool to prepare for a workshop? Imagine you just get hired as a business analyst in the insurance industry. They like your business analysis skills, and the company knows that you don't have any insurance background. And now you're in a mad scramble to try to understand as much about the domain as you possibly can before your first day at work. How do you feel about this tool? Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've just learned, probably even I've worked in the insurance industry for a couple of years, and I've worked in very specific areas of the insurance industry. But this gives me the confidence that if I was to get back into the insurance industry, I could very quickly get myself to a position where I can start to ask very intelligent questions, intelligent probing questions that I would need to be asking my customers to get them to answer the questions that I have for my requirements and my specifications. Absolutely. So it's given me a ton of other materials. Let's change subjects. Let's get into, you know what? Let's get into the sales domain right now. I'm gonna change gears a little bit and say, hey, what kinds of activities are involved in sales? And let's see if we can do the exact same thing we just did for insurance, for the insurance industry. I'm going to see if we can do the exact same thing for sales. Identifying potential customers. Okay. Salespeople have spent time researching and identifying potential customers who may be interested in their products and services. This is, yeah, this may involve using tools such as a CRM. I see. engaging with potential customers, presenting products or services, handling objections, closing the sale. I'm immediately going to dive into the CRM here and ask it follow-up questions to figure out. But this essentially lays out a sales process for me, right? Identify a customer, engage potential customers, present products or services, handle objections, close the sale, follow up. So this is like a broad overview of all the stages that are involved across the sales process. Let me ask it, I'm going to say, what is a good CRM system for large enterprises? Fingers crossed. Salesforce, folks, fingers crossed Salesforce comes into this list. Let's see. There are many CRM systems available for large enterprises. Yeah, each one depends on its specific needs. Salesforce is number one. Wow. All right. Salesforce is a cloud-based CRM system. Microsoft Dynamics 365 is another one. And let's see, Oracle CX Cloud. So it gave me the top three, it looks like, and it has large enterprise knowing for its ability. So about Salesforce, it's saying popular among large enterprises and it's known for flexibility and scalability. I think this matches up exactly with the comment you made yesterday, Raphael. Flexibility has, and you're completely right, it has a ton of flexibility. And the analysis work that we need to do here is to figure out how to get it to best leverage that flexibility. I hope this gives you a good SAP. So these are all the heavy hitters in the enterprise ERP and enterprise off-the-shelf systems when it comes to sales. Many of these companies are actually, all of these companies, except for Salesforce is specifically about sales, but SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft all have tools for a lot of other domains, like HR, for finance, for a ton of other things that you might experience as an analyst, a ton of other domains that you might run across. They have systems for those. Let me ask it a question. What does Salesforce do? Let's see if it's going to answer the question about the Salesforce, the company, or Salesforce, the system, because they're both, the company and the system are essentially the same name. So I'm looking to see what kind of a response it'll give, which one of those two it'll choose. And I'm also looking to see if the answer I'm actually trying to get down to is to see if it'll give me a list of the modules that exist within Salesforce that as a new business analyst in the sales domain that I can start to learn about, right? So that's right. So it's talking about the platform and not the company. Good. Salesforce is a cloud-based customer relationship management platform that offers a range of tools for sales, customer service, and marketing. It is designed to help businesses manage and improve their customer relationships. Excellent. And the capabilities are sales management. So this offers tools for teams to manage their pipelines, track leads, and close deals. Customer service, it does marketing, analytics and reporting, customization, and integration. So let me ask it if sales management, I'll check the chat to see if you all have any questions you want me to ask. If not, I'll continue going down this path. Definitely, this is really great. Yeah, need to drop now. No problem. We'll see you on the next one. But I'm going to continue moving forward and asking more questions about sales. So I want to understand, and this is a good area for me to do because as opposed to the insurance example, I already know quite a bit about insurance, but I know next to nothing about sales. So this is a good journey for all of us to go down here. For sales management, customer service, I'm going to say, can you tell me a little bit about sales management? what is involved in sales management. Let's say, what processes does a company need to have in place for sales management? Let's see if it'll just give me a list of business processes, saving me at least one conversation with all of my stakeholders. And if it gives me that, then I know exactly how to start asking it follow-up questions. So the last iteration of the requirements course that we did, we went through this discovery process without the help of this tool, because this tool didn't really exist at that time, right? This is, I think they just released this week or last week, but we went through an exercise where we learned about an entirely new domain to all of our students. We did it just using just raw research powers. Oh, we got another network error here. Let me try to regenerate that response and see if it'll give me an answer. But we essentially went through this process, and a process like this would typically take me hours to generate just a list of processes and to understand what the sub-processes are under each of those so that I can start to learn about the sales domain. This tool is a complete game changer, I think, for business analysts. Okay, so it said, okay, so it looks like it kind of broke down a little bit. We got another network error, and it is continuing on. Okay, and it's saying provide sales training and coaching, measuring, analyzing sales performance, managing sales resources. I'm going to ask it to repeat this so that we can get, can you repeat that, please? And I'll be nice to it because it is being very nice to me. And for a robot, like I said, this thing has great manners for a robot that that is so helpful. Let's see if we have, I'm hoping it'll start to give me the answer for, I mean, at least 1, 2, and 3, so that I have a semi-complete list of all of the different processes that are involved in sales management. Certainly, here's a list of the processes a company may need to have in place for sales management, setting up sales targets. That's excellent. Yeah, the company needs to define its sales targets, develop a sales strategy. This is excellent. And when we have our Salesforce experts coming back into the community with us, I'm going to refer back to this session here, and I'm going to build my detailed questions using the material that we're producing right now. So you might see a lot of this pop up in our future conversations when Vanessa and some other Salesforce experts that I'm reaching out to lend us some of their time. So the process that we're looking at here certainly is a list of processes. This is perfect. Setting sales targets, developing a sales strategy, managing the sales pipeline, providing sales training and coaching, measuring, analyzing sales performance. I mean, I'm constantly impressed by this thing. Like this is a level of research that it's doing for me that, again, would save me hours upon hours of time. What does it take to set up? What is involved in setting up sales targets? Let's see what it says. And I'm hoping it'll give me a list of like specific activities. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through this replay myself, and I'll build out a process map for all of us so that you can actually see the true power of a tool like this. Because it's one thing to have it mapped out for you the way that it's doing for us here right now. It's something completely different when you actually take material like this and you turn it into a visual that you're going to walk into a workshop with. And again, I'm still completely shocked at how good this is. I think that this is just my initial thoughts on it, having used it for this purpose right now. I don't think it has enough, like this won't replace the job of an analyst, but I think it will greatly expedite your ability to actually get to the bottom of the answers in your workshops. It'll probably save companies a lot of time and money, because the number of conversations that you have to have as an analyst with your customers now is significantly reduced. I would probably have to go through at least one workshop to validate this, right? I probably have to do, for me to get to the level of details that I'm getting here in just a couple of minutes, I would probably have to spend a few hours doing research, which the company has to pay for. And then I would have to gather the experts, subject matter experts, sales managers, etc., into a workshop and say, hey, here's my understanding. Can you please validate this, fill in the gaps, etc.? I would probably have to have at least one or two of those types of workshops for me to get ramped up and to get onboarded onto the project. With this tool, all of that time is saved. I could probably completely just cut those two workshops out of my BA plan, right? Of my BA work plan. I could probably cut those if I have access to a tool like this. So the power of this thing, I think, is massive. Identify a target market, determining the sales goals. I would say, you know what, whose responsibility is it? I want to now, okay, so this is how you set up sales targets. I want to, before I even walk into my workshop, I want to know who inside the company is responsible for doing what. And when I build out the process map, you'll see exactly why I'm asking it the questions that I'm asking it, right? That this there's some method behind why I'm asking it the questions that I am. Identify the target market. So whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it in the company to, we'll say, set the sales targets? Let's ask it that question. And hopefully now this is helping me with my stakeholder analysis, because if I generally speaking, understand who generally in the company is responsible for that task, I now can just navigate through the org structure of the company, find that person, and instead of going to my own project manager or going to the management of my own group and saying, hey, who is this person? I walk up to them and say, hey, is this the person I need to be speaking to, right? And that lifts the burden from them of having to explain how their entire company is structured for me. So I'm definitely going to be using this tool. If it's still available to us as a public, I'm definitely going to be using this tool in my next client engagement. The responsibility for setting up sales target typically lies with the sales manager or sales leadership team. These individuals are responsible for defining the overall sales goals. The sales manager or sales leadership team may consult with other members of the organization, such as the marketing team and the finance team. Wow, this is excellent. Once the sales targets have been set, it is a responsibility of the sales team to work towards achieving these targets. The sales manager or sales leadership team may provide guidance, support, and resources to help the sales team succeed. That is excellent. I'm going to say, what are some job titles that I can expect to see for, I'm going to say, sales, for the sales leadership team, in a sales leadership team, right? I'm hoping you're starting to get an idea of how to use this tool, what kind of questions you could be asking it to do your own discovery, essentially. This is the entire discovery process at the beginning of a project is exactly this. And so I'm hoping you watching me go through this process starts to give you some ideas of how you should be using this tool to do a better job for your employers and for your own clients. There are a variety of job titles that you might see. All right, so this is perfect, right? If I had access to the company's organization structure, I would basically look to figure out who the sales director is, figure out how many sales managers there are. In most large enterprise sales teams, there usually isn't one sales director either. You might have a sales director for a certain line of business. You might have multiple sales directors broken out by product, for example, right? So but just knowing that I need to look for a sales director gives me the ability to ask a question. I'm going to ask it, you know what? I'm going to ask it a very specific question. I'm going to pretend like I got hired by a company. Let's just say Procter & Gamble hires me and I'm working on a Salesforce implementation, right? Procter & Gamble, if you don't know, is the company that makes a lot of consumer products. They make Tide, for example, is soap for washing clothes. That is a Procter & Gamble product. I'm going to ask it a very specific question to say, how many sales directors work at Procter and Gamble? Let's see if it will start to give me that kind of information, because and Procter and Gamble, for anybody who might not know, is Procter and Gamble. I'll show you here. Procter, ER. I spelled their name wrong. Hopefully it understands that. So this, it's a company. They make Oral-B, they make Tide, Pantene. A lot of these brands that you might be familiar with are made by this company. I think I spelled the company name wrong here. So maybe let's see if it'll catch that and help us figure out how many sales managers, what does our stakeholder set look like inside this company if we're ever hired by Procter and Gamble and we need to do stakeholder analysis. This is giving me some intel on how many of these folks I might need to look at. I'm sorry, but I don't have information about specific number of sales directors at Procter. And it corrected the company name here also. Very impressive. And do not have access to current data about their operations. In general, the number of sales directors depends on their size and structure of the organization, as well as specific needs and goals of the functions that they have. Again, I'm shocked at the fact that it's not just telling me, no, I don't know. It's trying to be as helpful as it possibly can as a robot by giving me at least some general information. How many sales directors should I expect to see at a company like Procter and Gamble? I'm going to try to see if I can ask it this. I'm going to ask it to speculate a little bit based on whatever knowledge it has. So I'm going to ask it to speculate about what I should expect so that I'm a little bit better prepared for my own stakeholder analysis here. Let's see what kind of response it comes back with. It's not within my training to provide information about staffing needs or structure of the company, such as Procter & Gamble. The number of sales directors that, okay, so I guess it can't, it's not within my training. So I guess the robot hasn't really been trained in that area, but in general, largest companies may have more complex sales functions and may therefore have larger numbers of sales directors. That's right. Smaller companies may have simple sales function and may therefore require sales direct. Okay, that's good. And even that, like when it tells me this right here, there are already things that I know that I have to think about when it comes to my requirements and my specifications. And I'll give you a perfect example of what's going through my mind when the bot tells me that a larger company has larger sales directors. If I'm implementing Salesforce, inevitably, even without knowing the tool, I've never worked with Salesforce before, but I have worked with enough off-the-shelf implementation products and enterprise systems to know for sure that I'm going to have to produce a certain type of specification. And that specification has to do with the security requirements that you have to build as an analyst, right? So when it comes to security requirements, security typically breaks down into authorization and authentication. And the authorization requirements are where the rest of the project team requires very heavily on the analyst to detail out. When it comes to detailing out a lot of the authorization requirements for a Salesforce implementation, I know that I'm going to have to put a lot of work into the authorization requirements and specs. So for example, I would have to build out a very detailed roles and permissions matrix on a Salesforce implementation for Procter and Gamble, which is a large multinational conglomerate, than I would for a small company that maybe works in the local city that I'm in, right? Just knowing, just looking at this statement right here, that the chat has told me that just generally speaking, you're going to have a more complex sales function, and that sales function is going to have a lot of different directors. Already, just using my own experience, and I can teach you how to think this way, but just using my own experience, I'm already kind of building up an expectation of how much of my analysis effort is going to go into the roles and permissions that is part of the security requirements that I would have to produce. And so at a company like Procter and Gamble, I would dedicate a large chunk. Right now, the estimate in my mind is probably somewhere between 20 to 25% of my time, 15 to 25% of my time on doing analysis work is probably going to go to the security aspect, because it is such a critical aspect in many organizations. So just having the ability to get to this data so quickly is incredibly powerful. So I wanted to share this with you. This is the first time, I mean, I didn't have any intentions of going live today, but I started to work on this just to kind of test out the tool a little bit this morning. And I decided to just go live with it. So if you watch the replay, you'll see you'll see that I've already asked it a couple of questions before I decided to go live. But what I will do is I will capture this transcript here and I'll share it with the rest of the community. You know, my just general thoughts again, I think this is an amazing tool. If you haven't used it yet, now, especially after having gone through this exercise, I think this is a mandatory tool for all analysts to have access to. And if you haven't already done so, get access to it right away and start to think about how you're going to start using this tool for your own analysis work, right? And one way you could do that is to use it to learn a new domain that you need to. This will probably open up a lot of doors for many more people to become generalist business analysts as opposed to becoming specialists, because a tool like this makes it so much easier for you to hop from one domain to another, to learn a new domain really, really quickly and start to produce value for your clients and your customers than it has been in the past. One of the most difficult things in my own career has been the fact that every time I change a domain, so for example, I work in the insurance industry for a couple of years, and then I go into the mutual funds industry, I go into the financial sector, into mutual funds, and then I go into the education sector and I work for a university, and then I go and work for a construction company. Every time I switch domains, every time I have switched domains in the past, it has taken an incredible amount of time and energy for me to learn a new domain. And this right here is a complete game changer when it comes to my next consulting contract. Now I'd be comfortable taking on a project in aerospace. I would be comfortable doing it in basically any domain that I think this tool can help me understand. So I think that the power of this can't be overstated. So just to do a quick time check, we've been on here for an hour already, and I had no intention of coming on a live stream like this. So I think I'll kind of call it quits for this live session here and go and get some lunch. But I hope that thank you all for showing up. I didn't expect this many people to show up just on an unannounced live session. So thank you all for taking the time to show up. And again, the link is in the chat for ChatGPT. If you haven't gotten an account yet, make sure you get one now. Before you log off, just go to your browser, get it. I'm now 100% convinced after this hour that this is a tool that you are not going to want to do your job without. All right. Any questions that I can answer before I drop off? I'll wait a couple of seconds there and I'll share a couple more thoughts to see if anybody has any questions. If not, we'll call it a day for this session. But again, I think that my intention on how to use this is to is to learn new domains very quickly as a generalist analyst. So I'm going to continue to do that. My conversations with Vanessa so far have been around teaching domain knowledge for Salesforce folks. And that's one of the things that Vanessa and I were planning on starting to put together for the rest of our community here. And I think that task on our plate has now become way easier. So my next steps for this tool are basically to continue down this process of understanding the sales process, putting together an operating model that can teach you the domain knowledge that you need to have to understand the sales process a little bit more, and then reaching out to the experts in the Salesforce world to help us understand what Salesforce can and cannot do for us. Just having said that, I'm going to ask it one more question before I leave to see if it can answer a very Salesforce specific question. Can Salesforce be customized to support an I'm going to say conventional sales process? And I want to see if it answers that question, and then possibly in another live session, we can dive into this a lot more deeper, and I'll see if I can get us down to a lot of these answers, because this tool is unbelievably good. Yeah, Salesforce is highly customizable. It has, it offers a range of tools and features. It also has a variety of customization options. For example, Salesforce allows users to create custom fields, forms, and reports, as well as custom objects and workflows. I shared an article yesterday on the replay of our last live session. I would say that maybe don't even spend your time reading that article. Just get a ChatGPT account and ask it any questions that you have. It'll probably save you a lot of time and get you specifically right to the answers that you're looking for. So I'm completely blown away by this tool, everyone. I hope you get yourself an account. I'll call it a day here. Thank you all for attending. I'll be doing a lot more of these types of live sessions as we move forward into 2023, and I hope that you'll continue to participate. So I'll leave this here. Thank you all. I will hopefully see you all on the next one.